Susie, and today I'd like to share with you a tomato mousse shrimp cocktail recipe. The presentation is fantastic and very appropriate for Valentine's, and it's very, very delicious. It's a very special appetizer that I'm sure you're going to want to serve to your sweetheart. And if you don't have a sweetheart, you're sure you're going to want to make this for yourself. So here are the ingredients that you're going to need. So for our recipe, we're going to need some fresh shrimp, some cherry tomatoes, a tablespoon of horseradish, a tablespoon of mayonnaise, a teaspoon of ketchup, some Caesar mix or your favorite tomato juice, a couple of toothpicks, quarter cup of sour cream, some Knox gelatin, a muffin filter or a muffin cup, and a couple of pretty glasses to create our shrimp cocktails in. So let's get to the next step. So the recipe is very easy to make, but there's a few little tips and tricks that will make it even more delicious. So we're gonna start off with setting our mousse, and we're going to need 3/4 of a cup of Caesar. So Caesar mix. If you don't have Caesar mix, a vegetable mix, even tomato juice that you can flavor it with maybe a little bit of celery salt and some onion powder would also do. So this is for 2, and we're going to measure out, that is 3/4 of a cup of your Caesar mix or tomato juice. And then to that, we're going to add 1/4 of a cup of sour cream, full fat sour cream, and my favorite is Gailey Gold. It's 18%, it's super creamy and very, very delicious. So we'll mix that together. Oh, I forgot to turn on the kettle. We need to boil a little bit of water. So the kettle is boiling. So we're going to need to whisk this together, and a whisk is, I mean, you can use a fork, but a whisk is the easiest way to incorporate all of that sour cream fully into your tomato mix or tomato juice. So we mix that. Then in another cup, we're going to need 1/4 of a cup of water to dissolve our gelatin. And we're going to need half of a package of these Knox gelatin or whatever gelatin that you use, which actually equates to a little bit more than 1 teaspoon, half of a tablespoon. So we're going to add, let's just say a teaspoon and a tiny bit, which is approximately half of the pouch of the Knox. And then to that, we're just gonna add 1/4 cup of boiling water to dissolve this. So we have our kettle. We've got 1/4 of a cup of water. And then we're just going to mix to dissolve. And at this point, you want to have your serving glasses ready. Now I picked these glasses because I know I'm going to fill them up 3/4 of the way up, and they look really nice with the shrimp, but use whatever glasses you have. A fancy glass makes the appetizer, of course, look much nicer. So now that our gelatin is dissolved, we're just going to add it and make sure it's fully combined. And then we're going to pour our mixture out equally between our 2 cups. There you go. And now we're going to pop these in the refrigerator in order to set. Now in an hour, these will be probably 80% set, and you can remove them and garnish them at that point. But if you wait a full 2 hours, they will be super firm. So I'm gonna put these in the fridge, and then I'll be right back to show you the next step. So now that our mousse is setting in the fridge, we have some shrimp, and I've got 6 shrimp here that I'm going to use for my 2 portions, 3 each. Feel free to use as many as you want. And I always buy shrimp with the shell. They have way more flavor than if you buy them without the shell. And I never buy them cooked because I feel that you lose a lot of the flavor of the shrimp. Now, in order to take the flavor of the shrimp up a notch, we're going to brine it in salt and water for half an hour. And it makes a huge difference on how moist and juicy your shrimp will end up. Most of the shrimps, or most foods, reduce in size when you cook them by 15 to 30%, depending on what it is. In the case of the shrimp, when you do cook them, it reduces all of the moisture that's in it. The brine helps retain that moisture, it keeps your shrimp plump, and it also gives it that flavor from the salt. So we're only going to brine them for 30 minutes, but we're going to need a cup of water and a teaspoon of salt. And just stir it around, make sure it's dissolved. And this is for 6 shrimp, but basically you just want it to have enough water to actually cover your shrimp. So I think you can see there. Can you see it there? Okay, hold on. So as you can see, we just have enough water to cover the shrimp. Okay, we're gonna put it in the fridge for half an hour. So it's been half an hour, and now I'm going to carefully peel my shrimp, leaving a portion of the tail behind because we want that beautiful presentation. So we'll just peel these, and these peels you should keep for a fish broth. So as I get my peels, I just fill up a little Ziploc bag and I throw it in the freezer. And whenever I have a dish that requires some sort of seafood base, whether it be lobster bisque, or if I'm making chowder, or anything else that would require a fish broth, these shells are extremely flavorful and will make a really, really delicious broth. So never throw the shells out. And that's another reason that I buy the shrimps raw with the shells on. So I'll just throw these in the freezer and I'll be right back. So now our shrimp are cleaned and they've been deveined, and I'm going to set them off to the side. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my pot, I'm going to fill it up halfway with water, enough water to cover the shrimp, and I'm going to bring the water up to a boil. When the water is boiling is when I'm going to add the shrimp. Then I'm going to turn off the heat, remove the pot from the heat, I'm going to put a lid on it, and I'm going to allow the shrimp to poach for 5 to 10 minutes. So let's do that. So now the water is boiling, and we're going to dump our shrimp. We're going to turn off the heat. Add your lid. Take your pot off. Set it to the side. And now we're going to time it for 10 minutes, but we're going to check it at 5. So it's been 5 minutes, and the shrimp are definitely cooked. They've curled, as you can see. That's all it takes, but they're plump and juicy. And I can just tell by how bouncy they are. So I'm going to put these in the fridge and let them cool down. Now, while our shrimp are cooling down and we're waiting for our mousse to set, we're going to make our little topper sauce. And in order to make that, we're going to need 1 teaspoon of ketchup, 1 tablespoon of mayonnaise, and 1 tablespoon of horseradish. And just mix that all together. And this gives you a creamy but tangy dipping sauce for your shrimp. That's the texture. And it's pink. So I'm going to put this in the fridge and let it set until everything else is ready. Now, while we are waiting for everything to set, which is going to be just another few minutes, we are going to make our decoration for the top, which makes it very Valentine's inspired, because we are going to be making a heart out of 2 cherry tomatoes. So you want to take 2 cherry tomatoes that are approximately equal in size, and we are going to cut the tomato on an angle, and we're going to cut the other tomato in the opposite direction. So let me give you an overview so you can see what I mean. So we have our 2 little tomatoes, and we've cut one on an angle this way. We've cut one on an angle this way. So when you separate them, oops, and you put them together, you get a perfect heart. So now I'm going to do that with the other one. So you cut it on an angle, so you're ending up with a piece like this. Then you're taking it and you're cutting it on the opposite direction. And when you put the 2 together, you get a perfect heart. This is the stuff I live for. So next, we are going to make little arrows, which actually we need in order to hold our 2 pieces of our heart together. So you just want to pierce it like so with your toothpick. To make it even more adorable and look like a little arrow, you're going to take your little piece of paper from your muffin, a little muffin cup, and just cut a little strip. Fold it in half, about that long. And then we're just going to cut it. Fold it up in tiny little pieces, and then just cut little notches all the way around, and you'll get a bit of a floret. Actually, I should have done this before I pierced my tomatoes. And then just take a toothpick and wrap, whoops, wrap it. Wrap it and spread it. And you see, that makes a little arrow. So I'm just going to replace this so you can see, because that was an error on my part. There we go. So it's a perfect little heart with a little arrow. We're going to put these to the side, and we're going to go grab our mousse, because I think it's set and we can garnish. So our mousse is nice and set, as you can see. And we are going to garnish, oh, my sauce. we're going to take our sauce that we made earlier, and you just want to put enough on top, divide it equally between the two, and then we are going to add our shrimp to our glass. Maybe we want some leaves, and then we are going to add our heart. It looks great. Let me show you a picture. It's just fabulous. I love this appetizer. So now for the taste test, actually let me start with the mousse. So the mousse is nice and firm, you see? Wow, I love it. I love it. It's so delicious and tangy. They're sweet, flavorful. They're so tender. Fantastic. So you don't need a sweetheart to make this recipe. You don't even need Valentines to make this recipe. Indulge a little and treat yourself to a beautiful tomato mousse shrimp cocktail tonight with maybe a good Hallmark movie on Valentine's Day and a glass of champagne. So if you make this recipe and you enjoy it, I hope you share it. Enjoy! And you can't forget dessert.